That's the whole thing I talk about, winning the battle in the morning. So every morning I wake up, I believe in winning the battle against yourself. People say, why do you say that? Because there's a lot of things you can control. When you wake up, I talk about making your bed. Make your bed. Make sure your house is clean. Make sure you get your breakfast. Make sure you shower, shave. Whatever you're doing, control that. Don't hit the snooze button. All these things are very important. That's been told a lot of times. Why don't you hit the snooze button? Because you wake up already failing. You're already behind the power curve. So what happens when you hit the snooze button? You may not make your bed. You may not do your hair the way you want it. You may not pick the right clothes out in the morning time. And I go back to this real quick. Remember how you had a job interview for a job? We've had several of them in our lives. What did you do the night before that job, weeks before the job interview, when you knew you had it? You prepared you had a bowl out for your oatmeal, your cereal, whatever you had in the morning time. Your coffee cup was out. Your clothes were laid out. You studied, you rehearsed, you were ready. You brought your best self. You were going to war with yourself because you wanted that interviewer to see your best self. You won. You got the job. After a few months in that job, you look around. I got the job. You start to back off. The clothes aren't out. You're not ready. You're hitting the snooze button. You don't get up on time anymore. You realize that you can still have this job and not be your best self. The interview you is gone. Your job is gone. You have your job, but the interview you is gone. So winning the battle in the morning time is just that. It's that you wake up in the morning time and you own all this stuff, because once you leave your house, the world then gets at you. And that's why I believe in not getting up in the morning time and checking your phone immediately. Everybody does that. They get up, the first thing they do is grab their phone, look at the phone. Maybe bad news on there. So how's your day start off? I don't go to the gym. I don't make my bed. You're caught up now on that phone. That's how your day starts. You lost control. So once you win that battle in the morning time, then once you go out, now you've won. You go outside your house, you may lose your job. You may have a bad hit, but you won something. So you're going into battle having already won something. Having already won. So then if you hit the snooze button, you go out, you're just defeated already. You're behind the power curve. Now you've won something. You feel better about yourself. So now you're able to take these hits along the way. So that's the mindset that I think it's important to bring with you every day you go, everywhere you go in life. Win what you can. For me, my routine is every night I stretch out. And I stretch out for 2 or 3 hours every single night without fail. And while I'm stretching out, I'm thinking about my plan for the next day. And I'm thinking about all these different obstacles that may come up. So basically, a lot of us aren't prepared for life. We get up willy-nilly and just hope life is going to happen. It is going to happen. But it's going to happen with a prepared mind or an unprepared mind. Most people attack life with an unprepared mind. What I do is I try to account for all things that could happen, might happen, probably will happen, and then the unknowns. So basically, I can't account for everything, but I do know there could be some things that come up in life that you need to be ready for. I know for a fact I'm not going to want to work out tomorrow. Therefore, I'm preparing my mind for that. I don't want to do that. I know tomorrow will come with some difficult decisions to make. It may come with getting a phone call saying someone died. This happened, that happened. I'm always preparing myself, not in a morbid way, but just like, look, man, be ready for life. Don't let life just start attacking you left and right. Make sure that you start to build a mental armor so then you're ready for life. And that comes with a very physical way, and the physical helps out the mental. Well, the thing about it is funny, man, all these catchphrases people always say, failure is a part of life and failure is how you grow. I've said all that stuff before, but it really is a bunch of shit. I'm so tired of hearing all these fucking cliche fucking goal setting fucking posters and all that shit. Half the people who write that shit aren't even doing the shit they're talking about. Half the people talk about failure, they're fucking millionaires sitting back in some nice house or whatever the fuck they're talking about. So it makes me fucking nuts. The reason why I believe I can talk on failure is because I'm still failing today, and I'm failing in a major way, and I'm living when I'm talking. So many people who talk about all this shit, they're has-beens. They're people who used to do it back in the day, now talk about it. Are you living it today? So for me, failure is something that you should be afraid of. It should be afraid of, but that's why you should go out there and challenge yourself to fail. Because if you're not failing at something, that means you've set your goals to pass, to succeed at everything you do, which means you're not setting your goals high enough. So for me, okay, I'm gonna go out and break the Guinness Book of World Records for pull-ups. Lofty goal, which is why I failed it twice before I finally got it. I knew going into everything I've ever done in my life, Navy SEAL training, 3 times before I got it. Everything I've ever done in my life took me 3 times before I got it. I knew that there was a huge possibility of failure. But what I gained from failure is this. When you see a movie and you watch a movie about a person who keeps failing, and at the end, they succeed, how do you feel after you watch that movie? I was able to put myself there and say, God, man, how much do you feel now that you finally got there? That's what failure has done to me. I've watched so many things and watched someone succeed at the end of it. It's like, God, I want to feel like that. But failure causes that one feeling. Without that failure involved, you don't have that feeling. If you just pass and you succeed and you're great, that feeling, yeah, okay, I'm good. What takes you years, months, years to accomplish because you just can't get over the hump, but you continue going back to the drawing board. You're looking for those few seconds after you finally figure out the equation, whatever the equation may be, to get you to finally pass, to succeed. I live for that feeling, but I can't get that feeling without going through, fuck, I failed this equation. I failed this one. I failed this one. I failed this one. Oh, I'm figuring it out. So you start to feel it before you even pass, before you even get to the success part. And then once you succeed, the feeling is unbelievable. And you take that feeling of success through failure and you put it in your cookie jar. And you say, I'll come back and get you again. I'm going to need you again down the road in my life to call on you. Like, for instance, I see men and women now are almost all the same. I see women carrying bags. I see women opening their own doors. Like, this whole world is kind of meshed into one big person. All these customs and courtesies, all these things are just gone. Like, you know, the second that bell rings when the daggone airplane parks, everybody's just up. Versus a man seeing a woman that he's sitting by and say, hey, ma'am, is this your bag? It's all these small things. It's all these small self-disciplines.
We're always rushing.
We're rushing everywhere. We're rushing. People aren't holding doors open. It's all these small things, these small disciplines. Why do you make your bed in the morning time? When I was in the military, I never forgot. I was like, why the fuck are we folding our shirt up this way? Why? Why am I making these hospital corners 45 degrees and then folding my bed back 6 inches, the size of $1? Why am I doing this? All these small things that we do in life are building your mind up for discipline. And all those disciplines are gone. So that's the one thing that we definitely miss is self-discipline. It started off with the Rocky and Rambo movies. You know, those were kind of like my fathers when I was coming up. But then when I finally met this guy named Scott Guerin, this guy that fell off it, you know, he had a parachute accident. A guy crashed through his parachute and he fell 13,000 feet, pretty much to his death because his parachute collapsed and he fell 120 miles an hour to the ground. I mean,
that picture in the book.
It's disgusting, right? And so he hit the ground, and I met him a couple years later at this CAP, Civil Air Patrol camp. And I'm sitting there, and no kid was like amazed by him. You know, they're like, okay, this is a great story. I'm a kid, let's go. I'm sitting, he comes out, and I was amazed by Rambo. Like at a young kid, like, oh my God, this is the real Rambo. He came out, he had, you know, he got his throat cut open to open up his airway. And so I saw he got trached, and I saw all these different things. I was like, my God, he came out talking all like Clint Eastwood and he shared the story, and it's all hardcore. And I started following this guy, but he didn't know I was following him. So for a week long, he did push-ups and flutter kicks, and I was like, man, that is the real Rambo. I was looking for strength my entire life. I didn't have any. I was a really weak kid. My dad beat the living shit out of me and took I was strong as a young kid. But me protecting my mom for so many years in that house, my dad made me very afraid because he beat the shit out of me every time I went at him. So in that, every man wants courage. Every man wants strength. At least this one does. So I found it in every way possible. And when I see a strong guy, I was like, okay, maybe he could teach me. So he didn't know anything about me. So time went on. I left school, you know, and then this guy was in my mind. We had zero money, man. Like at one time we lived in a $7 a month place, government subsidized apartments. Now we live in like a $200 place at this time. I went on a $500 phone bill. And back then, dude, and having no money, my mom wanted to kill me. I was in search of Scott Guerin.
Yeah, no Google,
no Google, no nothing.
You're just randomly calling up bases?
Air Force bases, man. Calling up Air Force bases, man. Hey, do you know what Scott Guerin? What do you mean? I'm like, who's Scott Guerin? I'm like, he's a pararescueman. A what? Because, you know, pararescueman, you know, there's not a lot of them. So I started getting, okay, there's a PJ base here, a pararescue base here. So I started tracking down pararescue bases. Finally, Key West, Florida. He's a scuba instructor down there in Key West, Florida. I leave a message. He calls back, gets a hold of my mom. I'm like, I cannot believe this guy called me back. My first question to him was, hey, man, can I come stay with you for a week? He's like, who the fuck are you, man? He didn't know who the fuck I was. The guy let me come stay with him for a week. I think he said about 4 words to me in the entire week. We PT'd together, and I didn't need to hear a word from him. He didn't talk a lot. He was an instructor. I would go to school or to scuba school with him. He would instruct. I'd sit on the couch for 10 hours. Sit in the lounge on the fucking couch for 10 hours. He'd come back, pick me up. We go for a run. He'd go home. We ate fish every fucking day because we had to go out in the ocean, you know, like go lobster hunting. I hate the fucking water. I was scared to death, but this guy went in, so I'm going in. And I left there with just one big thing. That's what I want to be. If I was born with a silver spoon and everything was given to me and life came easy, but knowing where I came from and where I'm at now, just because I was able to crack open a few more doors, that's what's disappointing for me, for other people. I'm really good at creating an enemy. I'm really good at creating something that I'm against. And I'm also good at, if you ever tell me something that I cannot do, I'm going to let you know that I'm doing it. Somehow you're going to fucking know one way or another that I'm doing it. It may not be like in your face. I may make sure that I run across the daggone world. So then it's on the news and you turn the news on and say, how the hell
did he do that?
I want to do something that, you know, I'm here. I'm here. So every time I lose like a big significant amount of weight, I call that recruiter up and say, hey man, I'm here. I'm here. And before I knew it, man, this guy became almost like my best friend at that time. Because I started actually changing his life. You know, he started seeing, wow, man, like, I'm glad I took a shot on this guy. And not only did I lose weight, I had to go back and take the ASVAB test again. It was like a watered down SAT a couple more times just to get in the Navy SEAL. So it was a big process. So that 3 months was packed full of like failures, depression, even more. But what I found out in that whole 3 months, I lived a lifetime. In that 3 months, I started realizing if I can flip these insecurities upside down, if I can flip this fear, if I can flip all this shit that made me this depressed, insecure guy, if I can flip it and make it work for me versus against me, I started seeing the power in failure, the power in insecurity, the power in self-doubt. Because I looked at everybody, it may not be true, but that's how I looked at everybody, as being way above it. I thought to myself, if I can be at the lowest part of the world, in the sewer, and be able to overcome all this shit, I started using it as power. And I slowly started passing the guys from Harvard, the guys from MIT, the guys who were these great families and shit. I'm like, oh my God, I'm catching up. I had nothing. So I started flipping it and using this power. So every morning I wake up, it's not just about working out, but for me, working out has been a very big part of my mental growth. So for me, if I am not challenging myself every day, and I swear to God, people will not believe it, I was over almost 300 pounds twice in my life. A person that does that twice in his life does not enjoy cardiovascular activity, okay?
Yeah.
So people can put anything they want to in their head. I did realize one thing. The things I don't enjoy that I still do, that's where growth is at. And that's, for me, the only place growth is at. is in that very uncomfortable, in that uncomfortable zone.
Yeah.
So I have to visit it every single day. So,
and when you say visit it every day, what sort of things are you doing daily to push yourself?
So for instance, today I woke up and I just got to London and I don't know where to run here. It's very difficult to run around this place. So someone said, hey, you can run around out here, like around this 1 mile block. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not doing that. So I went down to the gym and there's this like crazy elliptical trainer, but it's not a normal elliptical trainer. It's one that you like almost self-power. It's very...
Yeah, it's not electric.
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
So I got on that thing and I realized, man, this shit sucks. And after like 2 minutes, I'm like, I don't want to do this. So right then I realized, it looks like we're going to be here for a while. So I did that for 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm not saying do that, but that's something I did today. Once my mind said, you know what, let's not do this today. I said, well, since my mind went there, I redirected it and said, just for having that weak thought, we're going to be on here for a while.
Right. So it does sort of sound like you're punishing part of your mind in a way.
Punishment maybe not be the right word.
Yeah.
I want my mind to know who's in charge. So for the better part of 26 years, my mind was in charge of me.
Yeah.
Which is why I made all these horrible decisions. Once you take control of your mind, you start making decisions for yourself versus your mind making decisions for you. Well, there's something that I invented a long time ago. And when you have nothing to draw from, I was able to find strength in every molecule of this earth. I'm able to be in a room with nothing, with no motivation, no inspiration, nothing, and find it. So what I did in those situations was I invented this thing called taking souls. When everybody's all fucked up and you're exhausted and you're weak and you're tired and you're looking around and everybody looks as bad as you or even worse. I'm like, you know what? I want to now make a statement. It's the perfect time to make a statement. To make a statement to let you know where your life ends and mine begins. And so the statement there is, I muster up every bit of strength from their looks on their faces and how they feel and how I'm going to now, from my childhood, where I came from, how I was the bottom of the barrel, I'm now amongst all these uncommon people. I'm now going to now make you feel like you're common. So I use their sadness, their weakness, their parts of their life where, God, this sucks. I'm like all poopy pants and messed up. I use that for my strength. And I have this moment of like, let's say we're in the sand, we're running or whatever. I will do a surge. I will do something and everybody's like, how the fuck is he doing this? And from that look on their face, that feeling of, God, man, this guy must be something special. It then surges me further and faster and harder for a long time. So it's energy's everywhere. But the thing is, it's so loud that voice in your head of pain and suffering and discomfort and I don't want to do this is so loud that you're unable to really calm it down and say, okay, there's something here. It's a patient calm that you have to bring yourself to say, I know I have something here, but that voice is so powerful that it wants you just to, let's leave.
Right.
We're done. It spazzes you out and you want to go versus saying, let's take a second. Hang on. Before we spaz the fuck out, hang on. And in that moment, you can think clearly and find that strength out there for you. We all have these two voices. For me, my routine is every night I stretch out. And I stretch out for 2 or 3 hours every single night without fail.
Yeah.
And while I'm stretching out, I'm thinking about my plan for the next day. And I'm thinking about all these different obstacles that may come up. So basically, a lot of us aren't prepared for life. We get up willy-nilly and just hope life is going to happen. It is going to happen. But it's going to happen with a prepared mind or an unprepared mind. Most people attack life with an unprepared mind. What I do is I try to account for all things that could happen, might happen, probably will happen, and then the unknowns. So basically, I can't account for everything, but I do know there could be some things that come up in life that you need to be ready for. I know for a fact I'm not going to run work out tomorrow. Therefore, I'm preparing my mind for that. I don't want to do that. I know tomorrow will come with some difficult decisions to make. It may come with getting a phone call saying someone died. This happened, that happened. I'm always preparing myself, not in a morbid way, but just like, look, man, be ready for life. Don't let life just start attacking you left and right. Make sure that you start to build a mental armor so then you're ready for life. And that comes with a very physical way, and the physical helps out the mental. A lot of us don't know of a whole other world that exists. It's on the other side of suffering. Once you break these barriers that you have made for yourself, like the mind is the most powerful thing in the world. It is so amazing that I used to be a 300-pound guy, and I thought that was it. Could barely read, could do anything. And now, that what was inside that person was this guy that's in front of you today. That's how scary the mind is. And that's what I started realizing through this journey, is that once I got a taste of, wow, man, I haven't even begun to crack what the mind is capable of. And I started realizing is on the other end of suffering, that's the real growth of life. Because you realize how the mind processes shit. And I talk about another thing called theory and practice. A lot of people are theorists. These smart guys that read these fucking books and shit, man, they sit down, they tell you what the mind is supposed to do. And a lot of us listen to that shit. It becomes like, this is it, man. This old man who has been studying the mind forever, this is the cap that we have. By being a practitioner, I went out and realized a lot of these guys are so wrong, man. I just do me, I'm out there running, working out, and just trying to find out more of what this is all about, trying to find out more what I'm all about. So that takes me getting away. I'm not about even doing these podcasts, man. So nothing against you, but I'm not about all this stuff. I'm not one that likes to hear himself talk a lot. I'm about action, and action means less talking and more doing. So that's where I've been. So basically, it's about wildland firefighting, about when the forest has fires. There's a lot of times there's roads and there's access to get there. So these, whether it be a hotshot crew or whatever, these different crews who come in by vehicle, they can get into the fire that way. What a smoke jumper is you can't get a vehicle into that place. It is a spot where it's tight. There's no vehicles, there's no access. So they'll send us in there, smoke jumpers, jump out of airplanes, and we'll land in these really tight, small drop zones with all of our gear, and we'll put the fire out. We jump out, so airplane, parachute. So we'll jump out. We'll have this. It's called a ditty pack, and it sits in. It sits like by your waist,
Yep.
on your legs area when you jump out, and that has a lot of your gear. But what happens is once you jump out, the aircraft will go lower, and will push out all the rest of your gear. Your water pumps, a lot of our main gear gets dropped into us. And then we're out there for several days until the fire is put out by us, and only us. Well, when I left the military, I'm always looking for more. I'm always looking for what's the next thing for myself. How can I grow? And that right there was the next thing for me. I didn't want to sit back and, just enjoy my retirement from the military. There's no growth in that. So I decided to go out and do this. So sometimes there is a way to get out, but a lot of times it's just, if someone gets hurt on the jump, a lot of times we have to build, like cut down a bunch of trees so a helicopter can come in, land, and get them out. So we are the only access. We have to save ourselves. So a lot of times we are the team to get us in and to get us out. Longest one I did was 7 days. So no, not really. So what happens is, and the thing about being in Canada, so I do this out of British Columbia. So what happens is there's a lot of daylight. So when I'm out there, man, there's a lot of daylight, but there's not much dark. So you're basically working a lot of hours. So, and then when it gets dark, you're actually working through the nighttime. And then you get a little rest, and you wake up and you're at it again. And then when the fire's out, you patrol the fire, make sure there's no more hot spots, make sure everything is black and wet, because we literally wet the whole area down. So there's no hot spots. And then when that's all done, we'll demob, which means we'll clean up all the stuff, all our hoses, we'll pack up all our stuff, and then we'll get out of there. I get about, I think the pay is about 12 to 15 bucks an hour. So, and what's funny about it, man, like when I first started doing this job, people didn't know that, I'm actually successful in business, and didn't realize that I was like basically turning down millions of dollars to do this job, and they can continue thinking it.
To make 15 bucks an hour.
To make 15 bucks an hour. So yeah. But, like I said, for me, the whole money part of it, it's not what it's about. I'm all about that growth, and that growth isn't in these massive paychecks for speaking to corporations, stuff like that. The growth for me is in that $12 to $15 an hour when you're out there and it's like 20 degrees and you're freezing your ass off and you're thinking, you know what? I don't need to be here anymore. And you start questioning yourself why you're here. And there's a lot of growth in that. Well, the first one was basically a bachelor's degree with the mind. That's how I look at it. And no one knew who I was. So this is the book, Never Finished is the book that I wanted to come out first. But how am I going to get so deep into something when no one knows who the hell I am? So first, I have to give you some backstory on who the hell David Goggins is.
Some credentials.
That's it. And so I got some basic credentials out there. And now I can dive in more, because most people think I'm just some animal who runs and yells and just says fuck and motherfuck all the time. And that's nowhere near the truth. That's maybe what they see in a 1-minute video, and that's what people believe. But there's a lot of thought behind a person being a born loser, becoming who I am today. You don't just wake up and just rocky the shit. You gotta wake up and think about, there's a process to getting better. And that process is never finished.
It's an appropriate title. Yeah. So one of the things that I've been thinking about is the danger of success making you soft. Mm-hmm. And this must be something that you've battled with over the last few years.
Right.
More money, more attention, more fame, more free things if you wanted, more opportunities to go places and do stuff with people.
Right.
How have you dealt with this battle of success not making you soft?
You have to cap it. You have to learn to cap success. So what I do is, like right now, I don't like doing podcasts. There's a lot of things I don't do that I have to do now to get the message out there to help people out. And what I mean by capping success, I believe everybody should live their life. So everything that someone says in life, take it with a grain of salt. Take what they give and don't be like, oh, David Goggins said this or whoever said this. No, do not take what I say and do exactly what I say. So for me, what makes me who I am, because my mission is very different than yours or anybody else's. I have to go into a situation where, okay, I'm a guy who wants to make people better. For people to get better, I have to continuously get better myself. For me to do that, I can't just say, oh, I have this resume, the resume is there forever, I'm good. I have to cap my success, because for me to help people out, I can't just say I did it once and I'm good. I have to continue to reinvent the wheel of the mind and figure out more and more ways for you to pull. Because if I have a cookie cutter message, it may hit 5 people out of 25. You just failed. My message needs to be in a way where I can hit all 25 people. It needs to be broad enough to where all 25 people may not like the message, but they're getting something from it. And that is evolution. You must continue to evolve. And you don't evolve, for me, in my job, unless I cap myself somewhere and say, okay, you made this much money, get back to fucking work. It's time to get back to work. Stop hearing yourself talk, get off the podcast, don't be on social media too much, cut out all the fucking noise, get back to the fucking mental lab, because that's where the knowledge came from. So for me, I must cap myself so I can come back with better, more unique knowledge versus all that cookie cutter knowledge that's out there. That's why people buy the books I have, because it's not cookie cutter. It's real knowledge.
The other thing now is, when you first started, you were a lone ranger.
Right.
Nobody really knew who you were outside of some obscure endurance places and half-heard truths of these weird myths.
Right.
But now you've got people's expectations layered on top as well. So not only have you got to deal with success potentially making you soft, so you've got to cap that, you've got to say no to more money and opportunities and cool people.
Right.
You've also got this extra layer of expectation that's coming through from other people too. And I think that you talk about trained humility in the new book too. I've got to presume that that fits into this equation.
Right, it fits in big time. And that's one big reason why I do fight fire. Because all the knowledge for myself comes from that place. It doesn't come from the place of success. My knowledge does not come from the place of, because for me, like, I built Goggins from the ground up. I was born David Goggins. David Goggins wasn't good enough. He was a scared, bullied, abused kid who struggled in life. And that kid, whenever something got tough, no matter how hard I trained, no matter how ready I was, whenever something got tough for me, David Goggins, the real David Goggins, would come out and he would quit. So I realized this over a period of time. So I had to build Goggins. And in that process, I had to go back to that mental lab. And that mental lab is at scratch. That mental lab is in that trained humility. And so that's where I get better. I get better when I'm digging holes in the ground, when I'm waking up early knowing I don't have to do these things. That's where I get better.
So it's important to stay hungry.
It's important to stay hungry, but it's important more to stay humble within that hunger. So while you're hungry, a lot of people are hungry, but humility is everything.